And so here's something interesting.
Scott, you got to briefly touched, you said the word creativity. I want to go there. This is a huge feature of NAR country as well. And so I'm actually going to read a quote from NAR country here. Stephen, you write that as we get older, quote, there are fundamental shifts in how the brain processes information. In simple terms, our ego starts to quiet and our perspective starts to widen. Whole new levels of intelligence, creativity, empathy, and wisdom open up. As a result, key downstream skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, communication, cooperation, and collaboration all have the potential, if properly cultivated, to skyrocket in our later years. So, Stephen, I would love for you to talk about these superpowers, particularly how creativity changes across the lifespan and what factors might influence some of these changes.
We do tend to see that fluid reasoning skills do show a bit of a decrement as we get older, but those fluid reasoning skills really don't matter when you're in the flow state. And I think this is the point that Stephen's making here, is that if we can arrange our lives to be more in a kind of state of flow that's drawing on our crystallized intelligence and drawing on our wisdom, our large storehouse of knowledge, all the experiences we've built up in our lives, our episodic memory doesn't disappear as we get older. It gets a little bit harder to access it when we get dementia. That's true, but barring dementia, being able to get a flow state that accesses all those goodies and doesn't tap into the fluid reasoning system, you can kind of sidestep aging to a very large extent.
The other thing that's really interesting, so one of the things, they do this really cool thing in the article where there's a table. It's maybe my favorite table in anything I've seen on aging, where you list, they're like sort of, these are all the skills that go into creativity. These are the ones that decline over time, and these are the ones we gain over time, right? And the list of things that decline is really ultimately short. It's like 8 items long, if I'm correct. And the list of what we gain is a lot longer. But one of the things that is on the list of declines, I believe, was task switching. Dr. Adam Ghazali, who's at UCSF, who we do a lot of work with at the Flow Research Collective, hit the cover of Nature a bunch of years ago because he figured he created a video game. It's been approved by the FDA for the treatment of cognitive decline in older adults. It's the only video game that's ever been approved as a medicine, and it's like 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. And what it actually focuses on is task switching, this very thing, which does decline over time, but it turns out he found a way to train it. It's tricky to train. So even some of the stuff that like we know it declines over time, you can still train some of that stuff up. Here's something even wilder on the fluid intelligence tip that Ryan and I we were actually meeting with some experts on this week. So fluid intelligence, one of the reasons it goes away is because processing speed slows down because myelination, right? White matter, insulation in the brain's wires declines over time. What people don't often realize is that bone health and bone density is directly tied to brain stuff over time because the bones are your nutrient and mineral storehouse. It's where the body stores. And if you think about it, brains run, among other things, on calcium, right? There's nothing in the brain that happens without calcium. Where do you think it comes from? But bone minerals and some of the only stuff that crosses the blood-brain border. So there's now new proof or new evidence or pointing in that direction that if we can increase bone density over time, and there are a lot of ways to do this now, some of the processing speed, some of the stuff that we think declines over time, that might actually be a bone problem, not a brain problem. And we figured out how to improve bone density over time. That's really trainable at this point. So even some of the stuff that we think declines over time, we're starting to find ways around it. But Scott's really right. His point is you can sort of bypass a lot of the things that decline over time with sort of a flow mastery-based protocol. And if you want to fight off Alzheimer's and dementia, we know that the 2 best ways to do it is lifelong learning, and you need expertise and wisdom, right? Mastery and wisdom are the 2 best ways to build up cognitive reserve, which is what protects against Alzheimer's, dementia, and cognitive decline.